Hi guys, so since the Boxster theme has been going on for the last few days, I thought I should respond to your comments and make a little video and talk about the Boxsters that I've had over the years and what I think about them. So, where do I start? So let's go back to the history of Boxsters. So everyone knows and says that Boxsters are the cars that saved Porsche, and it may be true from a financial perspective that they brought in a car that was sort of mid-range affordable for many people, and so I guess it opened up a new market for Porsche amongst various people who in the past would not have bought a Porsche, and then they saw that the Boxster was in their price range. I think same goes for the Macan. Macan is one of their best sellers because the entry level is, I think, about 53 or 55,000 pounds for a 4x4 with a Porsche badge. It is really sort of in that right price bracket where people think it's a decent enough car with a good brand behind it, and it's a semi 4x4. Well, it's a 4x4, but it's not high enough, and so it's sort of a, I don't know whether they call it the crossover or whether it's just an SUV. Anyhow, going back to the Boxsters, so I used to drive a 986 when it first came out for a little while, and it wasn't a brand new one. The only thing was that I felt it was a bit underpowered and not as refined as the 911s, which I've had for a while now. And then I got a 987 when it came out, and I was extremely happy. The only thing is that I bought a Tiptronic, which was the automatic transmission, but it's not PDK. It's the old one where you change the gears and it just, there's a delay. And also I felt that there was a considerable amount of power that was lost in that gear shifting, and when you were accelerating you didn't feel that the engine, that all of the power being driven out of the engine was going to the wheels, and there was always that little lag. So I kept it for a little while. It was a beautiful car, midnight blue with beige leather interior, and I was very happy with it, but then I sold it because it wasn't powerful enough. I've made these mistakes many times in my life where I bought a car and thought I'd love it and didn't think that it wasn't powerful enough, and then got bored and sold it because the engine wasn't good. So then I got 987, the manual one, and ever since it's just one of those cars that I've loved. It's been amazing because as soon as the clutch bites, you know there is power. You put your foot down and the whole turbine sitting behind you just pumps the energy and power, and it goes. It could do with more power because I think mine is probably a 3.2 litre engine because it's the 987, and I think later on they made a 3.4 litre engine, which probably would be better, more power, more torque, but I'm happy with what I have. The thing is, it has sufficient power for a small light car, and it's a convertible. It's not something that I drive all the time as my main car. So if I was to advise someone as to which Boxster to buy, I would certainly say, first of all, it depends on your budget, because a 987 you can probably pick up a good one between 10 and 20,000 pounds. It depends on the condition. I think mine is worth about 20 because it is extremely low mileage and it has every possible thing done to it that you can do. The full service is properly done all the time. It has its belts and oil changed, sometimes excessively, unnecessarily. Like every time it goes into the garage before I park it, I have the oil changed because I just want to make sure there's no sludge or stuff, grime settling down somewhere in the engine, so I have the oil replaced, I fill up the fuel tank to the top. But yeah, tires, brakes, everything is always in perfect condition. So if you find a low mileage car with few owners, maybe one or two, go for it, because these cars, the shape is so classic, they're so beautiful, they're not going to go out of fashion. The 986, the lights were slightly different, there was some curves, I think they were slightly different to this one. It's like the 911s, if you look at the 996 and the 997, the 996 lacked some beauty elements. When it first came out it was alright on the eye, but as soon as, I think, I don't know, a few months went by, it just didn't look the same, and it dated very quickly. But the 997s are going to remain beautiful forever and ever, because that they changed the headlights back to the original Porsche style rather than that teardrop. When it comes to Boxsters, I think if you have a tight budget, get a 987 S manual and you will not regret it. Of course, do your due diligence and check if it's in a good condition and all the things that I've mentioned, but otherwise you'll be very happy. If you have a little more money to spend, I would say then go for the 981, because again it's a naturally aspirated engine, quite modern looking. If you can get hold of a GTS, just get it without even thinking, because again these cars are going to become classics and they're going to stay brilliant and amazing for a long, long time. And I think their prices are going to plateau, and then eventually they'll start going up. For example, my car, you can get a similar car for about 12,000 and you can get this one for 20. Now you can see there's a massive £8,000 difference. That's almost 50% of the price of the car. That's the difference in the quality, the maintenance, the condition, I mean the leather, the floor mats. There's so many things you should check when you're buying a used car. This is an 11-year-old car, and I mean I could do a whole video about what you should look for when you're buying a car, because I've bought and sold so many cars in my life, and I'm actually working on another video which someone suggested, and I think it's a great idea to do a history of my cars video. So I have started collecting or downloading pictures of the cars from the internet, because some of those cars are so old I couldn't find decent pictures, and I never considered or thought that I would ever be talking about my cars to anyone, let alone to the whole world on the internet. So I'd never kept any archives or pictures, so I'm now downloading stuff and writing notes to remind me what I liked and disliked about those cars. And so I think I made a statement that I had 40 or 50 cars. I think I may have exaggerated a little, because they are that many cars, but I think some of them were my parents' cars, which I considered mine because I lived with them and I had access to them. So it's take that number with a pinch of salt. So I made a comment and then now I have to back it up with evidence, and I'm struggling. So anyway, back to Boxsters. I think you should focus your search on 981s and 987s. Those are the two good ones to have. You're not going to regret them. The thing with Boxsters is they are mid-engine cars, and those of you who don't drive Porsches or have not owned a 911, you will not realize that the engine is so far back that it's like having a big sack on your shoulder or behind you, which is a little flexible, and then swinging from side to side and trying to control yourself, because that weight will make you go much further than you really wanted. But it's fun to drive these cars, that's why they're so popular and they've been selling so well for all these years. What I would suggest is go try a few, and like I said in my previous video, there's no harm in booking appointments with 3 or 4 different dealers, because you only get 15 minutes in a car. So if you can extend that with several dealerships, one, you'll try different cars and you'll get a feel of one car over the other, how it feels, what it drives like, whether it's automatic, whether it has a few extras or not, and then it will give you a bit more understanding of what this mid-engine car is, because it is just the best. I mean, a lot of people buy Boxsters because they think they're affordable or cheaper Porsches. But I think that many people, I don't know, I'm just making a broad statement, they don't realize what an amazing car this is. Because I've been driving for many years. I'm not a very good driver. I'm not very ballsy. I don't do risky and dangerous driving. But I like driving and I enjoy it and I push my cars. However, with the Boxsters, I'm never afraid, because it becomes an extension of you, and you know exactly where all the wheels are, you know how the engine is balanced, you can thrash it, you can take it to its maximum limit, it works, it stops, it drives, and the manual transmission in this is so amazing. You feel the clutch biting and the thud and the thrust that you want. The gear shifts are beautiful. You can feel the mechanics when you're changing gears. It's not woolly and soft. Now I should go back to a bit about my 718. So the 718 is a very good car, but it's good for people who've not owned Porsches before. If you're a newcomer to the Porsche world, you buy a 718 and you've had all these other softy cars, you will love it, because the clutch is smooth like butter, the gears are they flow. But I don't know, if you're a real piston head or petrol head or whatever that term is, you probably won't like it, because it's like Japanese cars for me. They are reliable, everything is soft, you touch the steering wheel with one finger, it turns. But it might as well drive itself. So I want to feel the road, I want to feel the steering. So the 718 has an electric steering, and even though they say it's very direct, which is a term that really annoys me, because as if other steerings are indirect, so you turn left and the car goes right. No, they're all direct. But I think the term should be used is responsive. That for being an electric steering is very responsive, you feel what you're driving. But on the 718, yes, the steering was very responsive, but there was no feel. It didn't transmit the heaviness of the road, the feeling that I don't know how to describe it, but when you're rolling on the road with your wheels, you can feel that through your steering wheel, because all the sensations, vibrations come through the mechanical elements that are connected from the steering shaft all the way down to the assembly. But that doesn't happen in these electric motor, however they're designed, because they're so soft, and you switch off the engine and it's rock solid because it just stops. So that was the steering wheel. Then it was the transmission, because the transmission is so soft. I think it's a double clutch. It's the same as a PDK, just that they put a manual kit on the top. So it's so soft. You change the gears, nothing. Even if you release the foot off the gas very quickly, you're not going to cut, the engine's not going to stall. So all those things are kind of things that annoyed me. The finishing is beautiful. It's always Porsche. They do a very good job. I went to their factory and I was most impressed. No wonder their cars are amazing, because I think apart from Rolls-Royce and a couple of other English manufacturers, Porsche are the only company out there who are doing the job that they're doing by building the cars by hand and paying so much attention to make sure that they're excellent in quality. So going back to the 718, so all of that was great. I think the shape was too modern for me. I like cars that look a bit old. I don't like very modern, very flashy things. But I thought I could live with that element of the car. Then there was the engine, which was the most annoying thing, because it's a 4-cylinder engine. It does not sound like a real Porsche. It sounds like a different car altogether. So again, if you've not owned Porsches before, you'd be fine with it. But if you've owned a few Porsches, you'll instantly notice the difference. I've heard so many Subarus and Mitsubishi something, the sporty thing with the big spoilers at the back. going past, and they sound like that because they're 4-cylinder, I believe. And the exhausts in the Boxster, what they've done is they've created some kind of a sound box with the exhaust that produces amazing sounds. It does those pops and bangs, the backfires. So all in all, the sound is great, but it would be nice if that sound was consistent all the way throughout the rev range. And if you're driving normal mode, even if you switch on the exhaust, it just makes it a little louder, but that's it. You have to put it into sport mode to get a good sound. But then the throttle response, the steering response, everything is exaggerated. It drops the oil temperature because it's expecting you to go and thrash the car, all of which is not needed. So I would rather they put the exhaust option so you can switch it on and off, and it will do everything without turning the car into a monster or changing it into sport mode. That was my biggest gripe with it, because the car did not sound like a Porsche. It sounded like just an ordinary car, and you don't pay £60,000 to buy a car that has the Porsche badge on it, but it doesn't sound like it. And the other thing was, you go through the rev range, I think it's 1700, between 1700 and 2000, you could feel the turbo kicking in. And the Boxster S has a bigger turbo, and it has a variable geometry turbo. Basically, there are fins inside the turbo, and as it goes faster, those fins become narrower, so the air going through it becomes more powerful or stronger. So the trouble with that is that the turbo kicks in between 17 and 2000 revs. The car just suddenly is going and then bang, suddenly it picks up power and speed and then goes up, and then you get to about 4,000 or 5,000 revs, and it doesn't continue the same way. But if you've been driving naturally aspirated engines, the old type Porsches, you will know that the normal engines or naturally aspirated engines, they start really performing from 4,000 to 7,000 revs, and that's where the engine is screaming, you have the car in full power, and you can shift gears, and the thing is, it's consistent throughout the rev range, and it goes higher and higher. Yes, the full torque and the full brake horsepower comes at the higher revs, but it's consistent. With these turbo cars, it comes in and there's like that up and down. Again, if you're a newcomer to the Porsche world, it's fine, you can get the 718. But if you own the previous ones, you'll be very disappointed, because in spite of all the marketing and what they've done, I guess Porsche will not be happy with these videos, because I guess any manufacturer or supplier wouldn't be happy with my videos, because I say the truth how it is rather than sugarcoating it. And again, it's just my opinion. I'm not an expert in this world, so my opinion doesn't even matter. I've had about 15 Porsches, but in the Porsche world, they don't think I'm anyone important. So the other things that I had, the problems were, for example, the sat-nav had a problem in the car where it would show my location to about 5 miles away from where I actually was. And so if I'm in South London, I don't know, let's say Clapham, it would show that I was in 5 miles away in Sutton or something. So just to give you an idea that I was looking at the screen and thinking, this is not where I am, where it's showing me. So I took it back to Porsche. In the 4 months that I had the car, it spent a month and a half at various Porsche centers because they were trying to diagnose the problems and they couldn't. And at one point I said to them, look, this is an electronic item. Either do a software update or do a factory reset, because it's run by software, it's just not calibrated itself. And they said, no, we can't do any software resets until Germany tells us to. And eventually I convinced one of the service guys I said, look, unplug the battery, leave it for a while, let the car go back to its default, and then plug it back in, let's see what happens. And that fixed the sat-nav problem. Then there was another problem, which was that as soon as I switched on the sports mode to open the valves to get the proper performance and the sound, the car rattled like a I don't know, a lorry, a cheap metal truck. And it was like you accelerated, as you were going through you heard this awful rattling sound as if metal was hitting another metal, and then it would smooth off. And if you had the top down, it was shrieking loud noise that would hurt your ears. I took it back to Porsche so many times, a couple of dealers told me it's a feature. That's like, really, you're telling me that Porsche have introduced a massive rattling noise in the car as a feature? Anyway, I took it back to my good friends in Reading. I have to say, best customer service, and if anyone wants to buy cars, please tell me, because I will send you to my guy in Reading, the best person. His name is David Folks. I don't think Porsche would mind telling you guys his name, because he takes customer service to another level. I think they should make him the trainer of all the customer service staff. I mean, when I was much younger, I didn't have much money, and I was buying cheap used cars from there, and he gave me the best customer service. And there were other people buying the 918s that were $500,000 and $2 million. I was buying this £35,000 car, and he gave me the same service. And I said, I'm so impressed that you treated me like you treat your other customers who spend millions with you. I'm a nobody. And he said, no, you're a customer. For me, every customer is the same. It doesn't matter whether you spend £2 million or £2. You're a Porsche customer. And every time I go back there, they are just superb. Customer service for sales, the service staff, they're all just amazing people. Anyway, I took it back to them and I said, look guys, I'm having this problem. The guys in London are telling me it's a feature, and I've had the car back and forth, and they said, okay, we're sorry, leave it with us, we'll look into it. They kept it for a few days, and they said, yeah, we found a problem. The bracket that's holding the exhaust is hitting another part of the body. When you open the flap comes up, and then when you accelerate, it rattles against the other shield. Then they spoke to Porsche in Germany, who said, this is how it's built, and there's not much we can do at this stage, but we'll look into it. And I said, look, I'm not going to take this car back until you fix it, because it is really annoying. I can't live with this awful sound. And they said, yeah, we can fix it, because what we can do is we can put the bracket from the previous model into this, because that one will not cause this rattle. It's slightly different in shape. And I said, yeah, fine, I'm okay with this. So they did that, solved my problem, sent a note to Porsche saying this is what they'd done, so if other customers had the same problem. All in all, they gave me an amazing service, but the car still disappointed me. And I used to drive it every day to work, and I used to think this is going to become my everyday driver and I will love it. But I didn't, so I changed it to the Panamera. I've had Panameras before, and I'm so happy. It is such an amazing car. So, yeah, hopefully this was helpful. If not, comment below and I will talk more. Thanks for watching.